Going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Wednesday night, June 28th, 2023, about 9:55 p.m. here along the West Coast. Latest activity, it looks like a 1.0 up into the Alaska region. We are seeing a slight uptick there across the northern section of the Pacific Plate, including a 3-pointer just coming in there to the map. So let's see what's going on up here first. Way up north, talking about northern Alaska, well above the Brooks Range, close to the North Slope area. That 3.0 coming in about 2.9 kilometers deep. Historical data out here, as far as typical movement, we just really don't see too much activity out here. Historical data does show a handful of smaller quakes. Well, I shouldn't say smaller, actually some larger quakes out here across the region, but they're not super active as you would expect down further along the plate boundary. But there is some fault systems up here, and looks like occasionally those earthquakes do pop up. For now, an increase in activity across the Alaska region as noted here, including a little bit of activity across the Aleutian Trench as well. Seeing some slight uptick here across the afternoon and morning time period. A little bit of deeper and surface activity as well. Over here across the Kuril-Kamchatka, right smack dab on the middle of it, in the middle here, 4.6 earlier this afternoon. Got to watch this area. I believe this region is definitely primed here for some larger scale movement. I'm talking about above a 7-pointer. It's been awfully quiet here recently. 4.5 also just off the coast of Japan here. This is all activity following the deeper movement that we've seen here over the past week or so. Some pretty deep earthquakes, including that 5.6 north here of Japan. This one, that 5.6, was 317 kilometers. This one over here, 442 for that 5.8. That was coming in yesterday off the coast of Russia, but well underneath this area. So applying quite a bit of strain up here at the surface levels. We'll continue to watch that area. The Big Island, Hawaii, a little oddball earthquake out here today, west coast of the Big Island. Kind of odd, but 32 kilometers deep for a 3.1. Around the volcano here, Kilauea Volcano, lighting up slightly with a couple smaller earthquakes there across Kilauea Volcano. Let's go ahead and check in with the USGS here and the HVO and see what they have for the daily update. Still looks like it's currently paused. All recent eruptive activity was confined to the crater. Yeah, it doesn't look like any unusual activity across the rift zones for now, but we'll continue to watch that very active at times volcano there, Kilauea Volcano. Rest of the movement there around Pahala. Let's see what else we got. Across the Philippine plate, pretty absent of earthquake activity. I still don't have access to the EMSC data on the globe. The EMSC has updated and upgraded. I guess it's an upgrade. I don't know. Let's see here. Watch. EMSC. Normally, let's go over here to the maps. World map here. So this is all new. It's all upgraded, all kind of, I don't know. It's a little cluttered. You know, if you look at the map here, I kind of miss the older map. I was able to read it. I guess I can get used to it, but I mean, it's kind of interactive. You can zoom in and see what's going on here. The magnitudes are, of course, up here, and the hour or the week pass is going to be according to this color chart. So, you know, nothing major coming in here across the New Zealand area. I guess you can click on these and see what they're about, too. Did have a 4.0, it looks like, pretty recent. Off the east coast of North Island, and a couple other smaller quakes down here across the South Island area here in the last couple days. Still keeping New Zealand in mind here for some further movement, as it does sit along this plate boundary where we have seen quite a bit of activity up north and down south here across the region as well. But gonna take a little time to get used to it. It doesn't look like it updates all that quick. I know it's not my computer or my internet, but maybe they're still working on it. Either way, watch this area around New Zealand with that movement. Let's go over here to the GeoNet servers here real quick and see what we have. There we go. GeoNet servers here, 3.6, 16 hours ago. I'm looking for that 4-pointer that kicked off here fairly recent. There we go. That's a little ways up the north, off the north coast here. It looks like 100 kilometers deep. Quick glance here at the earthquake 3D or earthquake drums. Not really in 3D, but they're more on the 2D scale. Not seeing anything major, folks. Not a whole lot of activity. There's those threes from yesterday, almost a day old now. Looks like things were starting to kick back up, but they've died down here, roughly within the last 16 hours, 17 hours or so. But again, we'll continue to keep that area in mind here with some possible future movement. Across the rest of the area here, I'm sure we got some smaller microquakes, nothing above 4.0. Far as the Middle East and areas around India, looks like a 4.5, the latest up here, just outside of Afghanistan region, 60 kilometers deep. Not a whole lot going on across the Mediterranean, but I'm sure there is. There's always some 2s and 3s. But hopefully we'll get the servers adjusted there for the Earthquake 3D program, so we can add them back to the globe because they are non-operationable. Their server is down, but they're upgrading everything, so it might take them a little while. Some movement down here in the South Sandwich Trench from earlier today, 5.1, 117 kilometers deep. South America, nothing showing up here on the map. And then, of course, on the globe here, we got this older earthquake here from yesterday. It's still up on the globe. It should be, it should have dropped off by now. Maybe right about there. 24-hour line's going to be right here at the second mark, so I think that's about it. Try to keep 24 hours of earthquake activity on the globe here. That way it's not so cluttered. Let's see what we got here. Puerto Rico area, some smaller quakes. One earthquake way off the coast here of Canada. 2.4, 10 kilometers deep. Don't see too much activity up there, but it looks like a little one taking place. Some spotty movement across Oklahoma and Texas. Yellowstone National Park. Really don't want to get into this, but you know, if you watch this channel enough, you'll know that we chat about. It doesn't even look like they're working right now. Hold on a second. See what's going on. It was working. Hello. Looks like they are down currently because it's not working. Let me bring up the other site here that we can actually monitor the maps. Hopefully they're working. I don't think it's this window, is it? Could the oh, there we go. That was a little odd. A little odd. Either way, here's the Yellowstone area. We've been noticing like an interference pattern like on the late afternoons, and I've seen some folks here trying to fearmonger that, and I don't know. It upsets me a little bit that people just want to try to fool people, stating that Yellowstone's very active and it's going to blow. I don't like that one bit. I don't like the fearmonger channels here on YouTube. They take advantage of people by you know, falsifying information out there. I think YouTube is definitely cracking down on it, though. That's why we try to stick to typical graphs here. When we look at graphs, we try to investigate what we're seeing. Right now, there's not a whole lot of activity across Yellowstone, but the activity in question that someone was trying to fearmonger was an outside interference pattern, something similar to this, as what you see right here. These are not magma movement, not magma chambers. These are not you know, earthquakes. We've seen that type of activity here in the afternoon. That one's way up north here, but the activity I'm looking for, well, it doesn't look like there was a lot of thunderstorm activity there today, but that's why I wish we could see the overview here. We could see that the map in question, because if you see something like this, right, say for example, you're looking at this and wow, what could that be? First thing you want to check, what I like to do is look at nearby local other seismograph stations and see if that's showing up as well, right? Very short distance between these two stations here. So if something's going on here, I guarantee you it's going to show up here across this station, or maybe even park-wide. It's say if that was indeed magma movement or something going on underneath the ground, that would show up all over the place here. So outside interference triggers a lot of these seismograph stations in error. and the thunderstorm activity does as well. We've seen this night after night. We'll look back and see that thunderstorms blew up over this area for a couple hours, and then they dissipated. And it's always the same time in the afternoon on each graph. So that's that's a way to look at potential readings out here. Earthquake activity is going to look. I'm trying to find earthquake activity, see if anything's going on up here at Yellowstone. That one's not accessible. Let's see here. This is outside interference, I'm guessing. Doesn't look like earthquake activity. I don't think that's showing up on these other stations here. That one's way out of whack there. It's a little squiggly, but you'd be able to see earthquake activity. And these lines that are peeking up here, that could be who knows what, wind, but it's definitely not any type of magma. It's not earthquake activity, and that's it's not good to fearmonger and throw out false information if you don't know what you're talking about. I've been going to school for geology and physical science for a little while now. I know what I'm looking at, and most people do too. But there's always, one person on YouTube that's got a whole bunch of followers that like to fearmonger and open that door to fearmongering just for views, and that's not good. Outside interference, this could be thunderstorm activity as well, localized to this station. I'm not for sure exactly where it was at today, but let's go. I don't want to get into weather yet, but let's double check and see what's been going on up here across the area. Radar and satellite. I'm sure it's done by now. I don't know how far back I can go here. 6 hours maybe? Can I? Let's see here. Yeah, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's see. Is it going to play? There we go. A broad area of thunderstorm activity out here all across the Intermountain West, brewing and popping. You notice only a couple. Look at all those lightning strikes up there in those vicinity of where that station is, and also down south here. And that's those two stations I picked out. They had a little odd data on it. This wasn't a Yellowstone wide event. You know how that sometimes they do show up on all the stations like that. That looks like it is earthquake activity, but in question, or not in question, but in reality, it's all earthquake, or goodness, all thunderstorm activity, wind, hail. When the thunder rolls, it sends out quite a few vibrations, and all these seismograph stations pick it up. So, without a doubt, if you're questioning what a signature is on a seismograph station, the first thing to do is always look at a local seismograph station within the vicinity of the one you're looking at and see if that signature is showing up on that one as well. And then maybe go out a little bit further and see if all of them are picking up. But also at the same time, seismograph stations can pick up network errors, like within the network itself, like maybe something on the server end that serves all of these, all of the networks up here. So, but yeah, I don't like to repeat it all the time, but when I see it floating around across the social media platforms, not going to throw out any names, but it's just not cool at all to fearmonger and put fear out there, falsified information. Northern California here, a little activity here across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. And just because I mentioned in Cascadia doesn't mean I'm fearmonger. That's the facts. There's earthquake activity showing up there. Couple twos down there into the subduction zone level itself, 28 kilometers deep. The most shallow one there, about 17 kilometers. So let's see what we got here for the Tremor department tonight. This is all freely available public information, and it's not fearmongering. This is just data that's being produced by very sophisticated instruments, and it's all put out to the public, and I'm here to report it all. I'm not here to slam this in anyone's face and say, look at this, she's gonna blow. Not gonna happen. Sorry, I can't, I don't like that. I really don't like that. Tremor, 208 epicenters of tremor, roughly, it looks like a good distance here across the entire section of the Cascadia. Slight uptick. If you've noticed here over the past Oh, since about October 2022 last year, we've been on just a very quiet spell. We've had a couple incidents here of elevated tremor, but nothing like what we had seen in the past. So I'm not for sure exactly what's going on with this quiet spell, but it looks like we have had quiet spells in the past, right? On occasion as we look out across the years. So not unusual. But eventually we'll get that spike in tremor once again there, increasing in the tremor count. What do we have up here around Mount Rainier? 1.3 at the summit, a 0.1. So let's go check out Mount Rainier and see what's going on here. This is a pretty cool site from the PNSN network that shows volcano seismograph stations and whatnot. A lot of stuff, seismograms and spectrograms and all sorts of data products here that you guys can look at. But I kind of want to see what's going on here with these seismograph stations. So let's go ahead and see what's going on, since there's a little bit of activity being reported around Camp Sherman. Camp Sherman. Now let's go back to the previous day and see what we got. Now, looking at this, you would think that's quite the earthquake swarm, right? That does look like earthquake activity. Now, let's see if we can find what was the largest one here? A 1.3. That was earlier today, so I would have to go back. I don't think I need to go. It's going to be down here somewhere. 1.3. Maybe potentially here. That looks like it. Maybe some smaller earthquake activity as well. This kind of looks like a swarm in a way. These are all very small earthquakes. I'm not for sure how much snow's left up there. A lot of times during runoff and melting and whatnot, when the weather warms up, get some adjustment going on. But this definitely looks like earthquake activity. That's what we look for when there's earthquake activity. There's another small one too. What was that smaller one? Well, there was a 1.3 and then just a couple minutes later a 0.1. So it's hard to tell. Definitely hard to tell. So let's go over and check out the other seismograph station here and see what we got. And that's a ways away from here. Well, it's not too far. Let me see what the scale is on this. Looks like maybe just a mile or two from the earthquake activity, so it should be picking it up. In that case, this one possibly over here should be picking it up as well. St. Andrew's Rock. That one's kind of picking it up too. Goodness, what do we got going on here? Now this one a little bit more squashed in terms of the data, right? But if this was amplified, say the amplitudes here were turned up a little bit, I think we'd be able to see the same activity that we're seeing there. So this is a little interesting. I'm going to definitely watch this and keep an eye on it because it looks like it's starting to kick up a slight some type of earthquake swarm around the Mount Rainier area. Check out this other station here as well. And sometimes they get these swarms, but like I say, I'm going to have to double check. There's a couple other spikes as well. That one's not found. That's a day or so go back. These are very, very small, extremely small ones, but it looks like there's a lot. I really don't know what kind of weather is going on up there. Doesn't look like weather events. Definitely looks like some type of earthquake activity. I don't know. Is there snow still on Mount Rainier? But we'll definitely cover this. Keep an eye on that. They are mentioning a couple earthquakes here at around the Mount Rainier area. But definitely looks like there's a little bit more in the small microquake range we'll keep an eye on. Around Lake Almanor, once again, a little bit of activity here from earlier this morning, 1.2 and a 1.9. Let's see here. Getting a little activity here across the Lake Tahoe region. Very small negative earthquake activity. Not for sure about that. It's been a little while since we've seen any movement here. I think it was a couple years back we've seen some type of swarm kicking up here right underneath the lake. Either way, with all this movement across Reno lately and the Lake Almanor area, definitely shows some strain going on up here against the eastern edge here of the Sierra Nevada mountains. The San Andreas Fault here across the creeping segment, fairly quiet. Down here in SoCal, now this is what I like to watch for. I don't see anything major going on yet, but we got to watch for swarming activity down here across the Brawley seismic zone. It's just shy of the San Andreas Fault. This is a southern segment. We've seen swarms before in the past, but as I've said in my recent San Andreas Fault update video, I said that I believe when the big one hits, we'll probably see some swarming activity prior, and we've seen it over the past couple of years kicking up here. It comes and goes. Right now, only 2 earthquakes. It's not swarming, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Let's see, what else is there? Oh, whoa, what do we got over here? 5.0 kicking up. That one's just coming in a little bit near the Tajikistan, whichever one that is. Looks like 128 kilometers deep, stirring up out here in this region. Let's see if we got any unusual activity here across the seismograph stations. Doesn't look like it. Most of these are working, and they have been working fairly nicely, but occasionally these plate boundary stations disappear. But yeah, everything looks fairly calm for now as far as seismic activity goes. Let's go check out the space weather event, or lack of events, or what do we got? Let's see. There's a visible disk of the sun. We got a massive sunspot region, 3354, center disk pointed right at us. Now, if it wanted to do something, I think now would be the time. It is growing dynamically here. We got a new section kind of kicking up here on the northern spot here, or northern section of the sunspot. It is huge, and that's about the only one that's fairly complex. We do have some activity further on the eastern limb, but this one, 3354, is ginormous. 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 40, X flare around 10% chance. Looks like there's a little bit of flaring kicking up here currently within the sunspot. It's got a crazy looking area of magnetic lines. Look at that. They're all over the place. And, these big flares tend to happen all at once. So definitely keep an eye on that. What do we got over here? A little tornado? That's kind of neat looking. Little plasma finger sticking out there on the on the eastern limb of the sun. Looks like this sunspot over here is trying to stir up a little bit of activity as well. But I think right now we'll watch that one for the main threat. No major aurora forecasts in the forecast. So we'll just continue to watch it. Looks like 3354, the big one, has evolved into a beta gamma delta class that is now currently updated here, looking fairly complex. As I mentioned, there's a newer regional area within the complex structure of the sunspot starting to develop right here. It shows a sign of strengthening. So we'll continue to watch that as it could just pop off any minute now. Weather activity out here. Could I still see some thunderstorm activity out here across the Intermountain West and a good portion of Midwest and Central Plains area for tomorrow, leaving Texas down here high and dry. But that's going to change. Looking at the weather models here, see if we got any tropical development coming into the Gulf regions. As we look towards the 4th, it's still showing that somewhat of a tropical depression, maybe some tropical disturbance that trying to form down there around the 4th or 5th of July. And it still has been consistent with a development of something coming into, looks like the Louisiana area, maybe the Texas area as well. But that's going to bring in quite a bit of rainfall to the area. So we'll just continue to watch that. We are going to cook here in California. We're underneath a heat warning right now, an excessive heat warning. And that's just dandy, isn't it? I'm not a big fan of the heat. Things are going to cook. Current temperatures out here right now, some 80s out across Texas. I got that moist, warm flow just funneling in. I'm sure that's absolutely beautiful. I kind of like it out there. But here in California, looks like tomorrow the heat gets turned up here around the Chico area. 106 expected, 106 in Willows as well. Friday is when it gets turned up a little bit more. We're talking about 111 around the Willows area, 109, and we don't really have any weather or wind pattern out here that would show cooling trend or like a dry trend here. Normally in the valley, we'll get that dry north wind heating things up, but I'm not even seeing that. This is just due to the high pressure system that's strengthening over the area, just creating that sinking air, kind of similar to Death Valley. So I'm not for sure how dry it's going to be, but it's going to be hot. And then on Saturdays, when the heat really cooks out here, the excessive heat warning begins, I think, early Friday morning and lasts all weekend. 113 Orland, 111 in Chico. Redding, 111 or so. And that's going to extend. Look at these overnight lows, though. 11 o'clock. Let's see, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, there we go. 86 degrees at night. Not the best night to keep your windows open there, but it's going to be hot. And then Sunday is going to be, I think, the peak of it before it starts to cool down. Well, it looks like maybe Sunday dropped a little bit, but still 113 in Orland. Chico area getting pretty hot as well. Sacramento is going to be under the influence of a little bit of a delta breeze, but don't expect much. So if you want to get away from the heat here in California, head to the coast. Temperatures in the upper 50s and 60s. Beautiful. So yeah, interesting little pattern taking shape, but it is coming up into July, and I kind of knew it was coming. Rain accumulation here over the next 10 days or so. This kind of just gives a good estimate of where, wet patterns are going to be prevailing, and it looks like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, all these areas that could be, definitely needing some rain are going to get it. So that's good news. Looks like maybe a monsoonal type flow of moisture coming up from Mexico and creating that moist environment. So that's good news to see some of that rainfall. West Coast drying out. This is our very typical pattern here for summer. Hot and dry. Well, that's it. Yeah, there's hardly any rainfall that we get here in July. Maybe sometimes in the mountains from some thunderstorms, but it looks like we're going to be cooking out here. All right, folks, one quick glance at the map again. I think that's about it. Did they add a secondary earthquake up here? Did I miss that one? 1.7. I think they just added that one. When I looked here a minute ago, I didn't see that. Huh. Also, they got a 2.7 being listed up here in the UK area. A little odd, right, for the USGS reporting that, but hey, that's good. I would like them to update their system here to add an option for international earthquakes. Besides the 4.0 and above. 7 days all magnitudes do not show 7 days of all magnitudes out here. It's only going to show 4.0 and above, but occasionally that 2-pointer that gets slipped in there in the UK area. So I don't know. I would love to see it. Hopefully one day they will give that little option. In the meantime, have a good night, folks. We'll catch you guys back here sometime tomorrow. We'll be enjoying the heat out here. Take care, everyone.